Hello and welcome to another episode of Primetime, the interview series where it's always my endeavor to have an insightful conversation with an inspiring youngster. This episode, I'm joined by a very, very special guest, Arundhati Jadhav, an 18-year-old high school girl based out of Pune. And she's been a national professional climber. She's been an entrepreneur. There's lots to learn and understand about Arundhati and her inspiring journey. So, without further ado, let's welcome her on the show. Welcome, Arundhati.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's my
Hi,
pleasure.
everybody. I'm
How are
Arundhati
you doing?
Jadhav.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. So, without me saying too much, like I always do, I'd like you to introduce yourself to our viewers in your own words.
All right. So, hi, everybody. This is Arundhati Jadhav, and I'm an 18-year-old high schooler, just as Karthik sir mentioned, hoping to pass my board exams this June. I used to be a professional athlete before the pandemic. I am a sports climber. You would know the sports as wall climbing or rock climbing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to interacting with everyone here.
Tell us, before we get into the climbing and the entrepreneurship more in detail, before that, a little bit more about yourself, your growing up years, your schooling, who's in the family, things like that.
All right. So I have an older sister, and both my parents and my grandparents stay with me here in Pune. I was born in Mumbai, but soon we shifted to the US. I stayed there for a couple of years, and then we came back to Pune, where I did my primary and senior education. I opted for NIOS, which is the National Institute of Open Schooling, just because it has a more flexible um, curriculum, because I needed more time to train and participate in my competitions. And in 11th and 12th, I actually opted for homeschooling. So that is why this pandemic has never felt longer. It's been quite a challenge. Yes.
Okay, so now that you mentioned the competitions, etc., yourself, let's really focus on the climbing part. And as I mentioned to you in our brief chat before the interview, one of the aims of this interview series, I hope, is for other youngsters and parents to look at it and be inspired from real life stories such as yours. So I want to understand and tell us a little bit in detail for our viewers how the whole passion or obsession with climbing began. How did this whole journey begin and when?
All right. So growing up, I was actually a very adventurous and active child. I jump on and off the furniture at my place, and we also had a rope in our living room. So I remember whenever the bell rang, I'd run from my room, jump on the sofa, swing on the rope, jump over the other sofa, and then open the door. So, as I said, I was very active. And then in fourth grade, I was actually introduced to climbing. We had this a small old climbing wall in our school, which actually hadn't been used for a couple of years. And when Anand sir, who was my mentor at the time and who actually got me into climbing, he himself is an Everester. He summited Mount Everest in 2013. He saw me climb for the first time. He just asked me, would you like to continue and, practice it? And I was like, yeah, sure, because I had really enjoyed it the first time. And so I started practicing after school just twice a week for a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, before I got selected for my first nationals in 2016, which were held in Bangalore. And that is when I actually started training as a professional athlete and really putting in the hours and waking up early. I remember a month before my competitions, I would wake up at 4:30, be on the ground at 5. We train until 8:30, then directly hop onto my school bus. I would miss the first two periods and join from the third period onwards. Then I'd study. I'm in school, and after school, I directly from my bus stop go to the training center and train until 8:30. And the center was quite far from my place, so it would take 45 minutes to drive. And finally, after finishing training, I'd come home by 9:30. I mean, I remember having most of my meals in the car. My mom would get me a tiffin, and I'd change in the car. I'd eat in the car. That was my lifestyle before.
So, Arundhati, for a young person of that age, this sounds to a lay person like a lot of sacrifice. Did it ever
Yeah.
feel like that to you, or was it just that you were so passionate that you were singularly focused and all of this didn't matter? Because it sounds like a lot of sacrifice. You're giving up on school time. You're potentially giving up on any kind of social life or having friends, etc.
So at the start, it wasn't as much because, it was all very new to me and I loved the sport. I was truly passionate about it. So it happened very easily. I used to wait for school to get over so I could go for practice. But definitely a lot of sacrifices. Like even in the society, I stopped meeting my friends as much. My friends started to grow a little distant, and I didn't attend many birthday parties that year. In school, I couldn't attend the annual excursions or the annual concerts as much. So that was very sad because I am someone who loves being social, and especially the annual concert. I love dancing. So that was something that I missed a lot.
Okay. And so then, in this kind of a situation, what motivated you to keep going?
Mm, well, definitely getting better, and I wanted to. It took me quite a while to reach nationals, and once I actually did reach nationals, felt that, oh my god, if I put in a few more hours and give it my all, I can actually achieve greater things in this field. And I think that was the reward was my motivation. That could be a very common answer for a lot of athletes, but I really wanted to be on the Indian team. And after 2 years of training hard, I did get the opportunity to represent India in the Asian Youth Championships. So that was totally worth it.
Wow. Okay. And what, listening to your story of so much hard work, dedication, and so many things that a youngster would have to sort of give up, what advice would you have for other young people out there, students who are keen on professionally pursuing athletics or any other field for that matter?
I think it's very simple. Have you have to understand, you have to know yourself. Do you really enjoy yourself when you're training? Do you really see yourself waking up early and training and sacrificing everything else for the next few years? Would you really want to give up all of these things in order to become a professional athlete? And you should also understand that there will be a point where you want to take a break and just take a step back. You're not taking a step down, but you're taking a step back, and that is very important because I at the start of 2019 I wanted to take a break, and at the start of 2020, and I did, and I think it was a much needed break, and now I feel even more motivated than ever. So that
Okay.
is important.
Now, we talked about things that you've given up or sacrificed, which are a few things that one can explain to oneself and come to terms with, things like social life, friends, and things such as that. But being a student, you obviously can't entirely take your academics or studies for granted. I know you've kind of answered this question in your introduction itself, but tell us, and again, for younger students who want to pursue a passion with a very, very staunch, burning desire, how do you balance, or how have you balanced your studies and your academic requirements with your climbing?
All right. So, in my senior years in ninth and 10th, as I mentioned, I opted for NIOS. I was studying the ICSE board earlier. And so when I switched to NIOS, again, the entire syllabus was very new. And for me, honestly, I think that was kind of an advantage because it was something that's new. I was quite excited to study it. That's why that excitement kind of got me, to balance out my studies and climbing. So I remember for my training camps, I used to stay away from, like, for months, stay away from home for months. I My first training camp was in Bhubaneswar. Then I had one in Jamshedpur. I had one in Delhi, and it was kind of like hostel life. And everything I had to deal with it myself. I had become independent. I had to make my own decisions. So just carrying my books in the break time, quickly opening it, studying, it was for me, I think it worked out well because I wanted to study, which is a little strange. But even in school, because I wasn't studying at home, I was always training. So in school, I wanted to learn. I wanted to know what the teacher had to say. I
Sure.
think for me, it kind of worked out well.
Okay, and since you yourself mentioned these multiple camps in faraway cities and locations, I want to also ask you again, primarily for the sake of the younger people watching this interview at any point, that what kind of support, financially or otherwise, did you have, and from who all? I mean, this must be. Was it an expensive pursuit to go and train at all these camps and all?
Um, well, as I mean, sports climbing is not a very famous sport in India. Like, a lot of people don't haven't even heard of it, and
Sure.
it hasn't even been recognized by the government. That's why all of my competitions and everything were self-funded, which was kind of disappointing. But I know other athletes or other sports, they have a lot of support from the government. So it was expensive a little bit. I mean, I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate to be privileged in over here, but I know a lot of athletes who couldn't afford it.
Hmm.
So yeah, they did get a little help from here and there, but yeah, I was fortunate enough to be able to afford it.
Okay, leave the financial aspect aside.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of sheer support, in terms of moral support and encouragement, obviously you had your coaches who were doing that. Who else has played a vital role, and in what way?
So definitely my family and a few of my friends. I really I wouldn't have gotten anywhere without my family. And I'm very lucky to have such a supportive family. I remember my first camp, I was the youngest athlete in the team, and I had to stay for a month with athletes from all over India. And although we're all Indian, there's still so much difference. There's a difference in language, culture. It was a little hard to adjust. And also, being the youngest, I was also, one with no experience. Everyone else had been to multiple competitions. So I did experience a lot of insecurities and everything. But as I mentioned earlier, I'd talk with my family every day, and that constant support and um, just comfort that you get is enough to keep you going.
That's great, because it's so important to have a supportive family who understands not just your needs, but also your passions and aspirations, and becomes part of your cheer squad, so to say.
Yes.
Okay, now let's quickly move on to your entrepreneurial endeavor, because I find that very inspiring and fascinating again. So again, I'm not going to say anything. Tell us about your venture.
All right. So, of course, quarantine, I wanted to do something. I was getting really bored at home. And I would say I have a sort of money minded mind. And I was like, what better way to, earn money, make a little money by yourself? Because I think being 18 years old, I wanted to do something and by myself. And so I started thinking of options. I was thinking of starting a business for a long time now. I was just thinking of the like if what product to sell, or if there was a service I could offer. And I finally, after months of thinking, I thought of candle making. And at first, I thought it was fairly easy, but it's quite a tedious job. But it I've currently taken a break due to exams, but I think I ran the business for 3 months so far, and it was amazing. I had a lot of fun, a lot of creativity poured into it, and a lot of all of my customers loved the product. So that was great.
Where
And
were you? Sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
no, you can go ahead.
I was saying that where did you produce or manufacture your candles, and where were you selling them?
So my mini factory was in the corner of my bedroom,
Okay.
and I was selling them online. So through WhatsApp and Instagram, I'd get orders. And then I made a deal with my delivery guy. So he'd pick them up from my place and deliver it to places in India. So I've also sold my candles in Delhi, Bangalore, Nasik. Yeah.
What was the brand called?
It's called Candle Lit.
Okay, and there are lots of candle brands out there. What do
Yeah.
you think makes your candles different or special?
I think the fact that it's eco-friendly, I try to make it completely sustainable. So my wax is made out of soy wax, unlike paraffin wax, which is bad for the environment. Soy wax is completely organic, and the packaging that I use for my candles is sustainable. So I reuse cardboard and boxes. I remember my first week, I went out and I was just collecting boxes from all the nearby stores. Then I kept them away for a week for them to kind of get in their mini quarantine. And then I reuse boxes. So I
Wonderful.
think that was my USP.
Okay. And finally, Arundhati, before I let you go, I've been asking all my guests this question because, of course, we are in the second wave, a very, very terrible second wave of the pandemic again. Most parts of the country are in lockdown. So, what are some of the things that you've been doing during this very, very mentally testing period to stay happy, to stay active, to stay sane? And what advice, again, can you give other youngsters and students?
So I think initially it was much easier to keep myself busy. I'd try out new things. For example, this wall, I painted it myself in quarantine. I've been doing a lot of dance covers with my friends and with my sister online. Um, then I'm quite interested in languages. So I was learning Japanese, and
Wow.
I'm also quite a Korean drama addict, maybe. I mean, it was under control, but now I think the boredom is building up on me, and my daily dose has kind of increased. But I've also caught on a lot of Korean words, and I got my sister into it. So now we often speak to each other, like just spout words, Korean words at one another. So that's
Okay.
been fun. Um, And I think for the youngsters or everyone else watching, I think this is the best time to experiment and try things you like. Um, you want to try something with your hair? This is the best time to do it. You want to try a new hobby? This is the best time to do it. It's a good time to work out and just focus on health, because later you might get busy with college, school, work. So,
Okay,
yes.
so I think if I hear you correctly, what you're essentially saying is that undertake a journey of self discovery through whatever means possible during this time, because
Yeah.
that's probably the best way of using it and staying engaged at the same time.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Okay. And lastly, Arundhati, what immediate future plans, not just in terms of climbing, generally in life?
So I'm going to continue with my break in climbing, and I'm focusing more on college. I've decided to apply for media colleges because
Mhm.
I'm quite into just public speaking and everything. And hopefully, by the time this interview comes out, I'm already admitted in some college. Um, yeah, so college is what I want to focus on, and yeah, that would be my answer.
All right, wonderful. It's been great chatting with you. I hope a lot of
Same
people
here.
watch this interview and hear you and your story and your philosophy, really, and how you've really sort of sacrificed a lot to reach your goals. So it's been lovely having you here. Thank you for being on my show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Stay safe, be well, and I will see you soon.
Yes, hope to see you soon.